to the United stand. It's an early start, but Paul's up and fresh. He's up for it. He wants to play in the midfield on Wednesday, I think. But how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, very good. Yeah, nice and fresh. Got things to do. Obviously, big game coming up the weekend. Obviously, in between Atalanta on the Wednesday. So, yeah, got a few interviews to do. Liverpool, Man United, as you can imagine, playing for both teams. I'm in demand, but got to get the priorities right, Marky. This is more important than any of them. So let's crack on. It's been basically a dismal weekend for Man United and Man United fans.
Yeah, we were just talking literally just before we started there. I want to get your thoughts on Ollie and the team and everything that's going on, because I mean, I think this is a really dire situation. But I was just talking there about straight after the game, United 100% behind Solskjaer. That's leaked out again yesterday. Fabrizio Romano, who's on the show a little bit later today, saying that the club are 100% behind him. What do you read into that? You've been a manager, you've been a player yourself. Is that? Do you genuinely think the club are that stupid, or do you think it's just, we've got to do this for now?
Well, I think and you've seen it down the road with many managers, and you see it with many directors, football directors, CEOs, owners, whatever you want to say, come out and give their vote of confidence. And in 2 or 3 weeks, the manager's gone. So we have this kind of saying in football, the dreaded vote of confidence from the hierarchy. And is it really a vote of confidence? I mean, I'm not sure. I think it might be at this point of time because, as we said last week, they've got a trail of games coming up now that are so important for Man United's season. So I think it's only natural that the hierarchy would come out and say, listen, we stand by our man. And rightly so. Listen, if we're sitting here in 4 or 5 weeks' time, and there's 15 points away from the top one or two teams and out the Champions League, then I think that might be a different situation. But no, it kind of makes sense. I won't read too much into it. Is it a vote of confidence? I wouldn't say so. Is it just saying the right thing at the right time with the games coming up? Because when you got these big games coming up, Marky, you want to take the distraction away from the manager. The last thing you want going into a Liverpool, City, Atlanta, these games is people talking about, is the manager going to stay? Is he not going to stay? I mean, I've seen it in the change room, as a player, when you hear these little whispers or rumours or murmurs about the manager could be going, and it's a distraction to the players and the focus on their job in hand. So I think, as far as United are concerned, I think this is a good thing to come out with. I think it kind of allows Ollie and allows the players and staff just to focus on the games coming ahead.
Yeah, we were speaking on Thursday about Gary Neville and Roy Keane and other ex-players sort of protecting their mates. Certainly did it again after a bad result. I think Gary was trying to blame it on the players and said you've got to run around a lot. I don't know what coaching badges he's got, but I'll tell you what, the gap between the centre backs and the press from the front was like the Grand Canyon. You meant to press as a team, but this morning, after the game on Saturday, if I was to say to you, look, Solskjaer, do we need to be making a change now? I know you don't like to say those words, but you're also not someone who's going to sit on the fence. The worst thing about Saturday for me, and I can't get over it, you said you look miserable, I am, is that's probably we're meant to be bouncing back. That's the worst I've seen us play probably this season, and that's after an international break where everyone's meant to be coming back fresh. What are you thinking about Solskjaer now? Because it's a huge task ahead of him.
Listen, but I think we need to look at this from when Solskjaer first took over, and if you ask United fans or even ex-pundits or ex-Man United players, we've been here before. This is not something new. We've been here before, and we even spoke about this, Marky, to say, listen, when things ain't gone well for United, and Ollie's been under pressure, they've kind of bounced back and got results. I've done it 2 or 3 times in Ollie's tenure at Old Trafford. So this is nothing new, and this is something we find ourselves in the same position again. So if you look at really, nothing's changed from really when it's happened previously. And this is the kind of alarming thing for me. And just listening to Paul Pogba, after this match of the day, sorry, and he said, things have got to change, but I don't know what they are. what type of comment is that? Is, you know, things that had to change for me ages ago and they never changed. And I think sometimes when you're a manager and things ain't going well, and then things start to go well, that's when you've got to change things when things are going well. I don't see that with United. You know, Ollie's saying after the game, well, you know, things have got to change. Well, hang about, no disrespect. We've been here before. We was here last year, the year before, and things have changed for a phase, and then we got back to where we are sitting there talking about the same thing. You know, so for me, as far as I'm concerned, nothing's really changed. You know, we've just found ourselves in situations where we've gone on 4, 5, 6 game runs where everybody thinks, oh, great, this is it, we've changed. But then we're sitting back here in the same situation. And I looked at that game and I watched it 3 or 4 times, believe it or not. And just to look at the body language of the players, analysing certain situations, as you would do, you know, and, you know, I mean, the body language was terrible. I kind of felt that sometimes looking at that team, that they were playing to get the manager sacked. I honestly believe that because I'm just seeing like Leicester bombing forward, and I'm seeing Pogba and Fernandes just walking. You know, even from the goal that Tielemans scored, you know, you think to yourself, why does like Lindelof not just turn out and play it to Wan-Bissaka or Matic? But he goes back to the goalkeeper. Harry Maguire never looked fit. Listen, he's tried to do the right thing with Varane being out and saying he's ready to play. Never looked fit at all. You know, and you just think, even Sonchu's goal, the marking's diabolical. You got Vardy standing on his own. You got Perez standing on his own. You got 6 United players going for one ball. You know, and you think this is just basic structural setup. How we set your team up properly, do the right things, man to man, mark your players, go with your runners, get back in position. None of this was happening. None of it at all. So, and I just sensed there was this kind of, oh, we don't want to be here. We don't want to play for this manager in some of the players. You know, I did. And I tell you what, if you looked, and I'll say this to United fans, if you looked at Rashford's goal, it was a wonderful pass from Lindelof, unbelievable pass. But if you watch Wan-Bissaka pass the ball to Lindelof prior to that, watch his body language. He passes it and he just goes, oh. And I'm thinking, wow, what's going on here? You're playing for Man United. You know, this is the start of something that could be absolutely massive for Manchester United. And we said last week, well, yeah, I think we'll go to Leicester and turn them over. You know, puts in a nice position for the Liverpool game. And we've gone completely the other way. And the fact that Schmeichel's come out and said that David De Gea was man of the match says to me,
was.
Yeah, she was. It could have been 7 or 8.
Yeah. What would you do if you were the so you're Paul Ince now, you're director of football or your CEO, it's Monday morning, you've seen that, you've seen the start to the season, you've seen the players like that. Look, I'm not just going to throw it at you. I said last night on the show, to me, if United, I don't, Atalanta, whatever, if we lose to Liverpool and at Old Trafford next week, I think the league title's gone anyway, and that was the aim this year. If they lose to Liverpool next week, that's just that sort of step back is not acceptable. I'm sorry, Ollie, you're gone this time. This time next week, you're gone. If we lose to Liverpool next week, I'm not saying the board are going to do that. I'm not saying every United fan's going to agree with that. But for me, I think this is a disgusting start to the season. I think the tactics are, like, you know, many people have said, and you've said there, are abysmal. If you're in charge now, what is the writing on the wall? Is it time to be making a few phone calls before that Liverpool game, or are you still like, no, I see enough in Ollie that I'm going to stick this through even longer?
It's not that I see enough in Ollie. It's not even that. I just think that we're in a certain period of time which is so important for Man United season this year, and I think sometimes if you start changing managers at this time, you know, they've got different ideas, they've got different players. Listen, it might work, it might not work. You know, sometimes you've seen it time and time again. A new manager comes into a club, all of a sudden everyone's up for it. You start getting results for, you know, just like Ollie did when Mourinho left. He came in and, you know, but once the novelty wears off, then you go back to type. And you know, I think this is the perfect game for United. This is the perfect game after what we saw last weekend. This is the perfect game for United. And listen, as much as we're playing against, you know, Liverpool are, you know, flying at this moment of time, You know, this is the perfect game. And no, I think you've got to stick with him. I think personally, Ollie needs help. I really, really do. And this is why I'm not
He
too
won't take it though, Paul, will he? I agree with you. I think you can say what you're thinking, but for me, I think, like, you know, if I was Solskjaer, put aside what's best for you and do what's best for United if you want to keep your job. And that is, I'm sorry, whether they're my mates or not, these coaches you've got clearly are useless. They're not good enough. I'm not going to name names. We all know who they are, but I can't watch a game as a guy who's never got a coaching badge or never played at a high level and watch it and go, that line between our centre backs and our forwards is too big. Any team will play through it. Now, that's Premier League football. He should be bringing in top quality coaches. I mean, I don't know if that's what you mean, but he won't do it. Yeah. He'll stick with his mates.
No, I totally agree. I do think he needs to bring in a top quality coach. Listen, Carrick is a wonderful player, you know, but from a coaching point of view, you're coaching Manchester United, Michael Phelan. You know, they've got a young Kenner from the 23s. This is Man United. This is coaching world class players. Mm. You know, I sense there's no demands on this team. I sense that that everyone's just trying to make the players happy. The players just seem to do what they want to do. I think the players are bigger than the manager. I think they're bigger than the staff, and you can see some of that in their performance. You know, and I that concerns me more than anything. And I think someone like Ollie should have someone who's top class, who can go in there and say, right, bang, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. If you don't like it, you can move on. And this is what Man United is all about. Man United is about high standards and demands, and demanding from yourself and demanding from the player next to you, the whole team, and the staff have to demand that from the players. So when Gary's never talking about players not running back, that's just disgusting in itself. You know, they cannot run back. They cannot get in position. They cannot head the ball. They cannot tackle. Pogba in midfield lost so many tackles. Matic.
Well, that's on the manager as well, though, isn't it? You've managed, you've played, and
yeah, and you
take him off and bring Donny van der Beek on, give him a chance, you know.
But these demands are set from Monday to Friday. Whatever you do in training, you have to do. When I was at United with Fergie, our training sessions used to be like 110%. People tackling, people doing this, people getting on people. You know, that's and then we took that onto the pitch on a Saturday, and you can see that. You know, I don't mind United getting beat. You know what I mean? It's how they get beat, Marky, and the signs that they see when they're getting beat. You know, and I've always said this: what are they doing in training? You know, what demands are they getting put upon them in training that they can go and show it on the pitch on Saturday? And watching Saturday's game, it looks like they just, I can't be bothered. That I'm not running back. Let someone else do it. You know.
I'll tell you what demands they're getting. It's can you all get in a circle for a picture for social media? Because that's all we ever see them smiling with bloody fists in the air like that. It's a shame they don't take any of that into a match day.
It comes from the top. Everything comes from the top. You know, everything filters down from the top. And you know, I'm not sure. You know, I'm a bit worried about next week. You know, I am. You know what I mean? Because I just think it can go one or two ways. We'll either get, you know, they'll either get beat 4-5. You know, or they'll probably win 1-0. You know,
if he does get beat, do you think would you make a change then? Because I know what you're saying about it's a bad time, but I think a lot of people in the chat and watching would say, yeah, I completely agree with you. It's not a great time to make a change during the season in general. But you look at what Chelsea did with Lampard, who's, you know, someone I think you might have played with it, Lampard, who might have crossed over a little bit. But you know, that shocked a lot of Chelsea fans because he's a legend, bigger legend at Chelsea than Ollie is at United. And I didn't think Chelsea should have let Lampard go. And Abramovich wants to win. They've got owners who want to win. And he goes, Tuchel in, they win a Champions League. And I suppose people would say, I think people would say about Ollie is that, yeah, right, Ince's right. Maybe we shouldn't change it now. But I think people have made their mind up that Ollie ain't good enough. I would rather take a risk with somebody who's potentially good enough because Ollie ain't ever going to be good enough. And I think that's where people are at.
Yeah, I think the hierarchy are hoping that Ollie's going to be good enough. Yeah. That's the thing. I think you know, they're hoping that he can turn it around. That's why, because they put so much faith and confidence in him.
And they're idiots.
and I think, you know, as I said, if they would go and get beat 4-5-0 by Liverpool next week, then it changes the dynamics. Then it changes the way people think. And that's why you said last week, Marky, the next two games are massive. They really, really are. But the Liverpool game is a big, big one. If they get outplayed, and get absolutely their pants pulled down, then it changes the dynamics, and it puts more pressure on the likes of Romano and people like that to make a change. And as I said, I don't want to see a change, but when I kind of see the demeanour of the players and the attitude and the mindset, Pogba talked about the mindset on Saturday. I said, and it's right. It's up to the players upon themselves to go and perform. Pogba was poor. We raved about him for France in that role. Fernandes didn't even see him. Ronaldo, non-existent. Sancho, dragged off. These are 4 of your best players.
What would you do with that team? This is a great question, I think. I saw that team on Saturday and I was like, you know what? For the first time in a long time, I can't really moan about it. He's got Matic and Pogba in there. There's no McTominay. Obviously, Fred couldn't play. Didn't like Maguire because I couldn't understand how you can train for the first time on Friday and then go into a game against quick forwards. I thought that was suicide in a footballing sense, and so it came to pass. But what is he doing anything wrong with the selection? I mean, or would you change it, or is it just about the tactics because there wasn't any?
Listen, I mean, for the first time since we started doing this show, for the first time we can't blame Fred. And that's a good thing, because all we've been doing is slaughtering Fred.
Yeah.
Fred doesn't play, and this and they get this. What happens?
Does that not expose that the real problem is the tactics, though, when the players are going out that we want and they're still playing the same crap?
Yeah, it does. I mean, what are the tactics? What are the tactics of United? We heard Brendan Rodgers say after the game, yeah, but at Leicester, we like to press quick, we like to press forward, we like to be aggressive, we like to force teams into mistakes. And that's what they did, and that's how they got their goals. Now, if you asked Ollie what his tactics were, I don't know what they were.
Well, apparently, he did. I mentioned this tonight. He said, we need to block more, run about more, and tackle more. I mean, it's like he's managing an under-16.
That's not tactics. That's just a natural requirement. That's not a tactic, is it? Anyone can say that. Well, we know that. Because when you've got people like Tillman's running past the midfield, and we know you've got to run more. When you got to make blocks, is that down to desire? But that's not tactics. Compared to what Brendan Rodgers says. So that's a kind of fault in itself. We all know that. But what was your tactics against Leicester? How are we going to try and exploit them? What parts of the pitch were you going to exploit? How are you going to exploit them? What movement were you going to do to exploit those things? All these things, they're tactics. Not, we need to block more and run more. My daughter could have said that. It doesn't make sense to me. So, and this is where we talk about having a top-level coach who has a blueprint, to say, right, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and we continually do it. Liverpool don't change the way they play, nor does City. They have a blueprint and they stick to it. United have not got a blueprint. And that's why they're not sure whether they're coming or going, what they're doing, who's meant to be doing what, and they're all over the place. And with these players of today's, and I know that because I've managed at Blackburn in the Premier League, if things ain't going well, they quickly throw their toys at the pram. And the whole environment changes. And I can imagine the environment at Old Trafford at the moment or at Carrington is not a very good one. And
you can understand that, can't you? Because you've played a very high level. You played for England. You won trophies with United. We won't talk about where you went after Inter. Didn't win much then. But as a footballer, I think what fans don't realise, and you can probably give us the insight here, is that, you're middle of October, you've got all these good players, and you think, you know what, I'm excited about this season. I think we've got a real good chance. Hits middle of October, which is nothing in a season. We didn't used to start till Christmas under Sir Alex. We'd stay in the race. I'd say we're out the race. As a player, you can't just wake up in the morning and go, Solskjaer and Phelan and Carrick, they're nice lads. I'll waste another year at my career winning sod all. As a player, you're going to be mumbling. And also, I mean, your thoughts on that, but also Rashford this morning. One of the things we always heard about Ollie is that, he might not be a great coach, but he's a great man manager. I don't think Ronaldo's happy. I don't think what Pogba said after the match is happy. You got Rashford this morning saying, well, not directly, but to a very credible journalist in David Ornstein, saying that people close to Rashford are really not happy with Solskjaer coming out and saying he needs to focus on his football, which I sort of agree with Ollie about Rashford focusing on his football. But not when he's just been injured for 3 months. He's not like he couldn't play football for 3 months. The weekend he comes back, Ollie says to the press he needs to focus on his football. So he's pissed off Rashford. So his man management skills are starting to disintegrate as well.
Yeah, listen. I think, you know, with Marcus, I think what he's done is it's been amazing. It really, really does. And, you know, we're lucky that we got someone who can, like that, at such a young age, who's prepared to do what he's done, and he's got a platform for doing it. And you put on, you know, his first game back, and I mean, he scores a wonderful goal, a wonderful, wonderful goal, and then does Ollie need to come out and say that? I don't understand that. Ollie should be worrying about, am I going to get the best out of Sancho? Why the hell do I keep playing him on the left wing? Well, for Dortmund, he was amazing on the right wing. You know, how can I get the best out of Pogba? You know, why are we all over the place defensively? Why is there so many gaps in the middle of the park? Why can't the people recover to get back in position? Are we doing enough in training? Not whether Rashford needs to concentrate on his football. Yeah, that's something you don't say. So, you know, that's not good management. Good. I mean, his focus needs to be on other things. But again, after the last 2 or 3 weeks now, we said this can either go one way with United, with Ronaldo and all these players. It can either be a dream or it can either be a nightmare. Now, all of a sudden, after 2 weeks, we're sitting there going, Ronaldo doesn't look happy. Pogba, that looks fuming. Fernandes looks frustrated. You know, now he's Rashford. So all of a sudden, you're upsetting all these players. You know, can't get a tune out of Sancho. You know, so these little murmurs coming out of Old Trafford, where you think, anyway, you've got half the team who are not in the best right of mind mentally. There lies your problem. There lies your big problem. And, you know, that's something where you need strong staff. That's something where you need... It's not always about putting your arm around the shoulder and go, oh, come here, don't worry. Klopp wouldn't do that. Tuchel wouldn't do that. Pep wouldn't do that. Sean Dyche wouldn't do that. Are we just like a nice team, just hoping that one of our game changers is going to do something special? You know, Man United's never been a nice team. Man United could go to Wimbledon and have it out with them, with Vinnie Jones and Fashanu, and still win the game. You know, or we could also go to City and beat them football-wise. So our team in 93-94 had all the attributes to be a Premier League winning side. You could do both sides of the work, the dirty stuff, the good stuff. Now, this team doesn't seem to want to do that, you know, and when it doesn't go their way, then they're all over the place. They're disjointed, they're disorientated, no one's saying anything to anybody. I didn't see one player on Saturday go, "Oi, you get here, you come here." You're talking about experienced players. It's not a young team. I don't know why, because you've got...
Well, the captain on the pitch is the worst player on the pitch and shouldn't have been there. I mean, it's not leadership, is it?
No, it's not leadership. And listen, you kind of say, well, you're my Harry Maguire to put himself up there. But as a manager, you've got to think...
stopped him.
Yeah, is that the right decision to make? You know, it's not... He's got other players he can put in there by he could play. There's other players who could play in that position. So...
I mean, you've played again. I think what happened there is Harry Maguire trains on the Friday and says, Gaffer, I want to play. I'm fine to play. And Ollie's gone, all right, then, Harry, you can. And instead of going, this is not a good idea, I've got to think about what's best for United, I'll keep you back for Liverpool and Atalanta. He's put him into a game where you're playing against a quick striker, and Maguire's not quick anyway.
Yeah, but he's playing against 2 quick strikers in an Nacho and Hardy. You know, Maguire, you say Maguire's not the quickest player in the world, even though he's a good player. But that's, for me, that's a wrong decision to make. You know, and now he's going to go into the Liverpool game with lack of confidence because he's had such a poor game against Leicester. His confidence has been dented. And now the pressure's on Maguire to perform and lead the team. But I'm more concerned about the big players, the Fernandes, Pogbas and Ronaldos. I just sense a kind of... And I can imagine Fernandes and Ronaldo being pretty close, obviously both being Portuguese. I can imagine they'd be having a few things to say, you know, amongst themselves. You know, Pogba be... You know, have his own little clique in there. And this is a problem. When things go bad, you start having little cliques in the changing room. You know, you kind of separate yourself and people go one way, people go the other, and they start talking about this and talking about that. That's a major, major problem. You know,
we've always had that. Well, not maybe when you weren't there, but look, you know, we've always had that over the recent years. There are little cliques at United.
Yeah, never in our time. Never, ever. There's no cliques whatsoever. And even when I went with England in Euro 96 and 98, there was no cliques and we're all from different clubs. But I do sense there's this little kind of... When Pogba comes and says, I don't know what to do, how do we change it? that means there's a problem. You know, that means a problem. So and Pogba's probably a big figure in the changing room. He probably is. I mean, now they probably run the changing room. So if that's the message, you can imagine what they're saying in the changing room. You know, and it's down. You're right. It's down to Ollie and it's down to Mickey Phelan to get it sorted. It is. Listen, players have their own desire and sacrifice for the team, and they should make sure every time they go out on the pitch, they do their jobs and they do it to the best of their ability. But if they're not, then the demands have to come from the manager and say, you ain't doing this, you ain't doing that, you need to be doing this. Is it just a boys' club? Is it just job for the boys? That's my question. Is it job for the boys who just want to keep all the top players happy and smiley? If that's the case, then it ain't going to work.
The suspicion has to be that there is no ruthlessness or leadership in that club apart from putting their arm around each other's shoulders. I mean, we had Teddy Sheringham, who you played with in the summer, and I asked him about Ollie because he played with him. Obviously, he scored a goal on that night in '99, and he said, I want him to do well, but I'm surprised he went into management because he's probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Proper family guy, proper nice guy. I wouldn't have thought he'd be managing a top club. Michael Carrick, spoken to a few people about him. Again, same thing. Nice guy, you know, good footballer, nice guy. Mike Phelan, I don't really know anything about him. McKenna, I don't really know anything about him. But we're desperately lacking some grit and determination. And that starts off with Solskjaer. And then you mentioned Ronaldo. I mean, some people are saying that Ronaldo's part of the problem at United now because he's, you know, he's not running around enough and this, that, and the other, which I think is a nonsense. He's one of the best players there's ever been. But he's not a player we can drop. And he definitely doesn't suit our system. We're not playing to his strengths. And that's something he's got to solve yesterday, not in the next couple of weeks. He's got to get the best out of Ronaldo. He's one of the best players in the world, and he doesn't seem to know what to do with it. No, listen,
once you knew you was getting R7, then that's when the work should have started behind the scenes. How do we get Ronaldo into the game? You know, as I said before, getting balls into the box. Wan-Bissaka, for me, you know, he's not that type of player. You know, I don't know whether they went for Trippier at the start of the season because of that, but then we didn't know Ronaldo was coming. So, you know, I think they've never really set out to get the best out of these players. And again, you know, we've tried so many bloody combinations, so many different players, you know, and we still are where we are. I you know what? I'd love to see a Roy Keane go in there now. All right, I really would, just to go in there.
He wouldn't work though, would he? Because they'd all be on the phone to their agents. They'd say, "You can't speak to me like that."
No, but listen, but sometimes you think that's what they need.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Look, I mean, just for a week or 2 weeks and go bang, 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 you know, and do it the other side. Because as you said, it's not all about being nice, you know. And listen, Ollie might turn around and say, "Oh, by the way, you know, people think I'm nice, but when I'm in behind the scenes, I'm ruthless and this and that," like he did the other week when he was talking about players. Maybe, you know, we're not doing him self-justice. Maybe he is like that, but I don't sense that when I see him on the touchlines or when I see him.
I think that's just said to try and make people think he is. I've never heard from anybody that he is.
And you kind of feel that these top players need a kick up the backside. They need that, you know. And I think someone like Keane who would go in there and do that would be absolutely brilliant. And because it'd be a shock to them. But Keane's a winner. Keane puts, as much as people say, yeah, he always has a go at people. You know, that's what they need. This is what they need now to have a go at before these big games. And, you know, I can't see that happening. But listen, at the day, Ollie's in a position where the next 2, 4, 5 games are so important for him, you know, and it's sink or swim time, I think. You know, I think it's sink or swim time for Ollie. I think it's sink or swim time for the players. And you live for these games. We live for these United games, the Liverpool games, City games, Chelsea games. You know, big games at Old Trafford, full house, and that's what it'll be next week. It'll be a full house. United fans will be behind the team as they've been all season. You know, United fans want this team to do well. So it's not like we saw 2 years ago before the pandemic, where every home game they were getting booed and they wasn't happy. You know, you don't sense that. You're not. They're trying to get the team going. You know, but it's down to the players to do that. And now the players go into that game under more pressure now after Saturday's defeat at Leicester than they would have done if they'd got the result. And that's why, you know, I can't wait to see what happens. And, you know, and things, you know what, I just got to go back to this Ollie legend bit. You know what I mean? Ollie's got to go in the 99 Champions League final, correct?
Yeah.
Now, does that make him a legend? I'm always trying to work this one out.
I think the goal makes it. You know,
a legend. I get that. You know, and I think it is.
He's not on a level of some other players you could probably mention very easily. He was a good player. You could argue that Van Persie did more than Solskjaer in that 1 year because he won a title off his own back. But the goal just makes him an icon, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't buy that, to be fair. I think when you talk about legends and you talk about Robson and people, Paul McGrath and people like that, Keeney, Scalzi, I don't think a goal should make you a legend. You know, I think it can make you a hero. You know what I mean? I don't think it should make you a legend. There's
definitely sentimentality there. We were talking about this last night, that he's protected by sentimentality. I've got no doubt that if it was, you know, Tuchel in charge or Mourinho was still here, Gary Neville would be on there straight after the game. Get this pretender out. He's protected because of who he knows and the sentimentality, 100%.
Yeah, without that. And if Ollie had been at City, Chelsea, Arsenal, he'd have been gone by now. You know, so, you know, as much as, give him a chance, you know, he's having his chance. This is his third year, you know, and as I say, if he knows if he doesn't produce the goods in the next 4 or 5 games, then everyone's going to be asking questions. And unfortunately, that's part of management, especially part of managing the biggest club in the world. But when you see...
I genuinely would, if we lose to Liverpool next week, if it's good enough for Mourinho, it's good enough for Ollie. Especially, we lost at Anfield with Mourinho and he was gone the 2 days later.
Yeah,
I think you lose to Liverpool, you go 7 points behind them in mid-October. Cheerio, Ollie out. You know, I'll always like and respect him as a player, but as a manager, you should be judged differently. If he loses next week, he's got to go. I don't think he will. I think you're right. I think they'll stick with him. But for me, that's it if he loses next week because the season's done.
Yeah, listen. I don't think they'll get rid of him for sure. You know, it's not even just like 7 points behind Liverpool. If Chelsea were to win, then all of a sudden 10 points behind Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, so looking at that point of view, then yeah, they are at the title race. But I still think, you know, the Champions League is a big game. Atlanta at home, you know, combine the 2 of those games. If you lose both of those games, then, you know, it could be a serious situation. But I do feel there's this, you're right, there's this sentiment there, this feeling that, you know, that even when he fucks up and things don't go right, that he's protected and, you know, he's getting that longevity to try and take this club forward. But
he's protected because of what we just said there. We spoke about it before. He's protected because if you've got Mourinho in charge, we saw it. Yeah, Mourinho gets a lot of stick, but so do the Glazers. Ollie's like this protective shield that people are so in a dilemma about, can I criticise Ollie because he used to play for the club? The Glazers don't get mentioned unless they try and take us in a Super League, so they're never going to remove him because he protects him.
Yeah, and that's not the right way to think about it. That's not the right kind of mindset to have, is it? You know what I mean? I think if that is the case, and Ollie feels that is the case, he'd probably tell me, say, listen, you know, you're governed by your results, you're governed by your performances, you know, and if I don't perform well and the team doesn't perform well, then I expect to lose my job. He might be saying that. But if he is protected and he knows that whatever happens, he's going to be here to the end of the season, then he's got to start sitting back and saying, how can I make a change? What can I do? Who can I bring in? We saw Steve Bruce, no disrespect, last year bringing Graham Jones in at Newcastle because he wanted to make a change. He wanted to see they were trying to do something different. You know, this is what Ollie's got to start thinking if he feels he's going to be there for the rest of the season. Because the last thing you want as a manager is when you lose your job, you think, well, what could I have done differently? Well, I want to have done this. I want to have appointed him. It's too late. So if you're going to make a change, and you want to bring someone a class coach in, do it now. Do it now while you're protected. Because if you lose the next 4 or 5 games, I think that protection might be gone.
Definitely. Well, look, Paul, it was a quick one because we've got stuff on both of us today. But really appreciate you popping on. Honest and to the point as ever. I know the chat's enjoyed it. And we're going to speak again on Thursday morning because obviously it will be very close to that Liverpool-Man United game, which we've sort of been touching on the importance of it, and it'll be massive.
Yes, it will be. Big game. You look at Liverpool the other day against Watford. It looked scary. The front three are flying. But listen, fingers crossed. You know,
it's a derby, isn't it? You've played in them. It's not a derby, but it's you know, you've played with United against Liverpool. You've played with Liverpool United, and it doesn't matter who's the better team. You've always got a chance. I mean, I remember you playing against us in '99, and it was like I think it ended up 2-2 at Anfield, and we were way better than Liverpool. But
yeah,
it's a good game for the underdog, and I wouldn't write United off.
Now listen. Derby games. There's no form comes out the window in derby games, and we say, is it a derby game? Well, when the fixture list comes out, as a Man United player, Liverpool player, you just think, when are we playing United? When are we playing Liverpool? I said, this is a game they've got to get up for, and it's a game they can win. Old Trafford, the fans, on Blob, the players, if they turn it on and they play well, Man United can beat anyone. We know that. They don't do it often enough. So if they do play well on Sunday, then they'll win the game. If they don't, then Liverpool will actually chance them. It's that, it's like that. And sometimes actually United are going at playing at home and in the underdogs. That should, when does it ever happen? This is where United are. They're going at home and in the underdogs. But listen, it's going to be a great game, that's for sure.
Well, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. We'll speak to you on Thursday.
Look forward to it, mate.
And I'm back after got Fabrizio Romano, so we're going to be talking a little bit about Pogba and a little about what he's been told about Solskjaer as well. So you can join us live for that one as well. But thanks everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you in a bit.
Cheers, guys. Ta-ra.
Cheers, Paul. Have a good day.
Good, mate.